Congressman Byron Donalds for more on this. Congressman, thank you for being here. It's a somber day. President Biden is not far away from Arlington Cemetery. He's pretty close to where this event happened. Why wasn't he there?
Joe Biden is not present because the failure of Afghanistan is his, and it is shared by Kamala Harris. If the withdrawal from Afghanistan was a success, trust me, Joe Biden would be there today. So would Kamala Harris. They would be talking nonstop about his leadership and how wonderful she has been as a partner working side by side with him with respect to Afghanistan. But it was an absolute debacle, the worst decision making ever. Kamala Harris was the last person in the room. She was there with him making this decision. And not only was it a terrible withdrawal, we lost 13 men and women. There were hundreds who were wounded. It was a disaster for America. So this is why nobody is seeing Joe Biden right now, because every decision has been a disaster for America. And this is also why Kamala Harris won't answer even the basic questions. If you're going to run for president, shouldn't you talk about America's foreign policy on the third anniversary of the worst withdrawal of America's troops from any theater in the history of our country? She won't answer those questions because the answers are terrible for her. They're terrible for the Democrat Party. And it is a disrespect, not just to our men and women in uniform. It is a disrespect to the people of our country who do demand answers.
Well, those questions will undoubtedly be part of the debate if the debate happens. I want to talk about that. But first, I do want to put up a soundbite from General Jack Keane, who talked about the various cascades of bad things that happen around the world after the world saw what happened in Afghanistan. Let's roll that tape.
It's no accident then or isolated that Russia moved into Ukraine as a result of this decision because of U.S. weakness. It's not an accident that Iran has operationalized all of the proxies in the Middle East to take advantage of what they believe is U.S. weakness. And President Xi, certainly incentivized and by this as well, became so aggressive over the last 2 to 3 years as a result of it. It's indisputable. You can't walk away from it and not pin the rose here and connect the dots in terms of what happened.
There was a cascade of events that happened with our position in foreign policy, and none of them were good after this Afghan withdrawal.
Jack Keane is absolutely correct. Right after the debacle of Afghanistan, the Russian military started amassing troops on the Ukrainian border. They did that for 6 months. Where was Kamala Harris during this buildup? Where was Joe Biden during this buildup? They were nowhere to be seen. They had nothing to say. Then Vladimir Putin invades. We know what happened there. Same thing around what's happened with the aggression of the Iranians. It is the decision-making of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And so Kamala Harris now wants to be commander-in-chief. Who are going to be your advisors? Is it going to be the same people with the same mindset from the Biden-Harris administration? If that's the case, that is dangerous for the American people. But again, Kamala Harris is nowhere to be seen. She'll give you statements on vibes through her press people, but she will not speak directly to the American people.
Well, meanwhile, we also got news over the weekend that the U.S. Navy has had been forced to sideline about 17 of our ships because they don't have the personnel to run the ships. Extraordinary news about we've been hearing about recruitment and lowering recruitment levels for several months, if not years now. This administration appears not to have done anything about it because they're now sidelining hardware, serious hardware. 17 ships is not a laughing matter because of personnel difficulties. It seems like their whole strategy, their whole DEI strategy of hiring and recruitment has been a failure.
It has been a failure. The Kamala Harris-Joe Biden policy of mass vaccination in the United States military led to a decrease in soldiers from the United States military that has not recovered. Recruitment is massively down, in part because of these DEI protocols in our military. It's simply not working. And so now it hurts our military, it hurts our preparedness, and that actually lets our adversaries know that the United States is not serious. This is why we need Donald J. Trump back in the White House. We need somebody serious with real leadership that, frankly, our adversaries not just fear, but they also respect.
Well, this is also why we need a solid debate, which will get into all these issues. I mean, I know you've made your decision about who you're going to vote for, but there's still a lot of Americans who haven't. They would like to hear both sides. They've only heard vague generalities about the economy, certainly about foreign policy. By the way, not a word about Afghanistan was mentioned during the DNC. They covered a lot of ground of personal histories, but not one word about Afghanistan, even though they knew that the next week, the anniversary of that withdrawal was coming up. So will there be a debate to sort all this out for the undecided?
I do believe there's going to be a debate, but I would tell President Trump and his team to keep the same rules from the Joe Biden debate. And let me be very clear as to why. The reason why Kamala Harris wants to change the rules now to have open microphones is because she wants to interrupt Donald Trump. She wants to be able to create a spectacle out of this debate, which would prevent her from actually being forced to discuss public policy, discuss her positions in detail. She wants to create some sort of moment, some sort of YouTube spectacle that can be replayed so she can hide behind the debate as opposed to talking about the policies that impact the American people. She wants to be able to create this moment where she owns Donald Trump for 10 seconds. That's just ridiculous. It's not what matters in our country. Donald Trump has debated everybody from Hillary Clinton to Joe Biden, all points in between. He can definitely debate Kamala Harris, but it is in the interest of the American people that Kamala Harris is not allowed to make this debate a spectacle. It has to be about the issues facing America, because she has serious questions that she refuses to answer. And the way they're campaigning, the only way the American people will get a straight answer about her policy positions and the thought process behind them, and that's very important, the thought process behind them, is if she actually has a very clear debate with Donald Trump where both people have an opportunity to express themselves without being interrupted, whether it be by the moderators or by the opposing person. Kamala Harris wants a spectacle. She doesn't want a debate on issues. That's why she wants to change the rules.
Finally, I want to switch to a more recent failure of this administration. That, of course, was what happened 6 weeks ago with the attempted assassination of the president. It was a deadly attempt, by the way, because a person died. Other people were shot as well. You now have this House task force that is on site in Butler, Pennsylvania right now. Democrats and Republicans are there, but already certain Republicans, we had the Speaker of the House himself question whether there was some kind of stale, an attempt to not get the truth out. It may be too early to call it lying to the public, but they're not putting out all the facts that they apparently have already. Do you think this task force will break through the logjam of silence?
I do. I know most of the members on that task force. I know them all, but know some of them better than others, obviously. I think there's a group of members who are going to be able to get to the bottom of this relatively quickly. The bigger issue is that, yes, the Secret Service under the Department of Homeland Security in the Biden-Harris administration, they have followed the same protocol of every other aspect of the Kamala Harris-Joe Biden administration, which is stonewalling. Nobody is held accountable. There are no answers to the crises that were created and the things that went wrong. And they basically just try to wait out the news cycle. Hopefully some other news breaks, and then they move on to the next subject. Yeah. And then there's no real changes, no real reforms. This task force is going to do this. But America, this is why you cannot have another 4 years of the Obama, Biden, Kamala Harris agenda. It is not working for the country, and our institutions are rotting as a result.
Congressman, we got to run, but very quick, just to put a fine point on it, you do believe that the Secret Service is stonewalling right now on this subject?
I believe they've been stonewalling the public. They've been stonewalling the press, which is why it's unfortunate, but you got to have an independent body. And this is what the purpose of Congress is, to investigate the actions in the executive branch and bring real accountability.
Congressman Byron Donalds, thank you very much for being here, sir.